Perfect. All right. Good morning. My name is Asha Aiello. I'm the Work Ready Program Director. I'm here offsite today actually doing a webinar with Victoria Yokoi of Boeing. She is the manager of the tooling and process engineering and indirect supply chain for Boeing Fabrication, Boeing commercial airplanes. She will tell you a little bit about her career and the site that she is at right now, and we will get started. So thank you everyone who is attending today.
Hi. Do you just want me to?
Yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself. I wasn't going to read your entire bio, and then you can play your video.
Yeah. So, like Asha said, I'm Victoria Yokoi. I currently am a manager, or what we call a Boeing first line leader of tool engineering, process engineering, which is kind of like chemical engineering, as well as indirect supply chain. So it's kind of like a supply chain type role, a little bit different than the other two. I actually went to Oregon State University and have a degree in mechanical engineering almost a decade ago now. And then I interned at Boeing Portland, and I actually just never left. I stayed part-time and continued to work here in the tooling engineering group. And then I was the team lead of that group for a few years, and then I took on the manager position and then just have kind of accumulated the other roles the past 3 years here. Let's see. Grew up in Southern Oregon, live in Portland because that's where the site is at. Most people think Boeing, they might think Washington, Seattle area, but there's actually a fabrication site here, and fabrication is almost like I would say like a supplier to where we actually put all the aircraft together. So we do detail parts, so like one-off parts for a lot of different things here, and then as well as assemblies. And then we ship those all off to the different sites to actually assemble airplanes. Let me see. Since my time here, I've also went back to Oregon State University and have a master's in industrial engineering for engineering management, and then also got a great opportunity to actually go through the Boeing LX program, which is like another development type thing. So really, I love talking to students and especially high school students kind of trying to decide where their career goes, because I feel like I've been in the industry for 10 years and I'm still constantly trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. So just hoping to provide some direction. So ask me any questions. I've been on that pursuit for a long time, just trying to learn a lot of different things.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that feels that way. I sometimes feel like I still want to know what I'm going to be when I grow up. But do you mind if I ask where you grew up in Southern Oregon?
Yeah, Klamath Falls, Oregon.
Yeah.
Most people don't know where that is.
I grew up in Gold Beach, so on the coast. So I'm very familiar with most of the Southern Oregon, because you're right. Most people are like, I have no idea where that's at.
Yeah, exactly. I would say like 30 miles from California, where Oregon Tech is. Sometimes they know. So I actually can't share screen, Asha. So is that?
Yeah, that's since we went to the webinar, restarted it. Now you can.
Okay, let me try. And I hope you're able to hear the sound. Can you just let me know if you can?
Here at Boeing Portland, we strive for excellence in
Can you hear that sound well enough, Asha, or should I? Okay, you can. All right.
the airplanes we build. Each part we produce is essential in the success of a flight from takeoff to landing. But what does it take to get to this point? These planes don't just appear out of thin air. Let's go back to where it all begins. This is Boeing Commercial Airplanes in Portland, Oregon, the center of excellence for complex machining and assembly. This site is responsible for many of the parts that make up the main landing gear, pilot flight controls, and wings on some of the most technically advanced airplanes in the world. The parts here are produced with precision, complex machining, and the strongest alloys on Earth, making us a major contender in the global market. Without a doubt, something to be proud of. This video is about the employees and processes that make it all happen. Many things have changed with over 100 years of operation, but our legacy has remained the same. The people. The people of this plant are responsible for our past years and continuing years of excellence. Many of these employees have dedicated their entire careers to Boeing. These people know about integrity. They know about hard work. But most of all, they know about dedication. That is why Boeing's reputation is one of quality and outstanding customer service. As the life of an order begins, it's amazing to think of all the occupations needed and involved in delivering a quality product to our customers on time. These occupations vary widely in tasks and duties, but begin with leadership. Quality leadership is the foundation of our team, and they work hard to support all of the occupations at Boeing Corporate. Our manufacturing team consists of machinists, assemblers, inspectors, platers, painters, maintenance people, and tool fabrication. Our engineering employees specialize in things like mechanical engineering, INC programming, chemical engineering, and metallurgy. And finally, our support organizations people fulfill site environmental health and safety duties, financial roles. They are also first-line managers, human resources folks, joint programs employees, and information technology people.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I always like for people to know that, you think Boeing and you think aerospace, you think making airplanes, or doing, the things that you do. And there's so much more to it. You've got everything from marketing to HR to payroll to, from a tech on an assembly line to, again, kind of what you and your team do. So I know you talked about, you mentioned a little bit about your background. Can you tell us a little bit about what your specific job is and maybe?
Oh, yeah. So specifically, like I said, I manage the groups. I'll kind of go through what each groups are. So tool engineering, if you noticed from the video, there was like a video of a machine cutting on something, right? Like milling away. We make the tools that actually hold the production parts during those machining processes. So anything that has an engineering like part requirement, we actually need to hold and have the equal amount of engineering drawings and model tools that can show that, hey, this is how we held that part in order to achieve that engineering requirement, like sizes, for example. So very tightly controlled, just so we can output very high quality parts. So that's tool engineering. And then if you saw in the video, it said platers as one of the types of employees that we have here. We have a chemical processing plant on site, and we do a lot of surface treatment type stuff to prevent rust for surface hardening and things like that, cleaning. So a lot of chemical processing, sometimes scary chemicals, I would say. I also manage the engineering team that helps keep that one running. And then, like I said, indirect supply chain. Most people know what supply chain is. That's how we get things in and out of the site, things that we purchase, things that we're sending out, managing day-to-day schedules. Indirect in front of that supply chain word just means I manage all the stuff that don't actually go on the airplane. So anything that our site needs that doesn't actually go onto a production part. So it could literally be like a mop all the way to paying our Comcast bills to paying, it's such a random assortment. Cutting tools, I'll buy the material for tooling and things like that as well.
That's awesome. What got you interested in this field? You went to you got your degree in mechanical engineering, of course, and then you interned at Boeing. I know my internship changed me a lot with my career path. So what kind of kept you interested with it?
I'll actually start back when I was in high school. I feel, because I always am grateful for the mentors in my life. And speaking to a younger generation, I try to remind them to keep an open mind. I honestly was a pretty stressed out, high performing high school student, and I was like, I'm going to graduate valedictorian of my high school, and then I'm going to do whatever I want. I'm going to go to culinary school is what I have said. And my calculus and physics teacher sat me down and said, hey, can you just try engineering? Can you apply to some engineering schools and try it for a year for me? And I had a pretty close relationship with them, and I said, okay, fine. So I did it, and I actually really fell in love with it. And I think personally for me, I just like the accuracy in numbers and how things work in that learning aspect, right? So then I stayed on that path. And then I went through something called a MECOP program at Oregon State University. You get 2 different internships at 2 different companies. I interned at Daimler Trucks in the aerodynamics group, super fun experience. And then I interned at Boeing Portland my second senior year. And, I clearly remember going to the career fair for the MECOP event. And my manager, still my manager today, and he explained what Boeing Portland did. They're like heavy manufacturing, machining, like this big machining facility. And I remember telling them, okay, no, thank you. That doesn't seem like something I want to do. I love designing the trucks at Daimler last year. I want to do something like that. And then in MECOP, you just get placed wherever you get placed. And I got placed at Boeing Portland, and I ended up really loving it. And I think it does go back to, in that video, it said, one of the biggest things that here is the people. I would say I really love the engineering work, but for me, a lot of it comes down to the people. We have some really difficult challenges. But it never feels like, hey, Victoria has to solve that problem. We have so many experts and so many people that are willing to collaborate that any big problem comes up, I might be stressed for a second, but once we assemble the right team to get working on it, I don't think I can even remember a time where we didn't come up with a solution. So I think that's really driven me to kind of latch onto this. And then being able to manage the team has been a whole different experience from being an engineer. I really do think I love seeing the people develop into that same role and become those experts and solve those problems. And then pass that back down, which is honestly why I like doing this.
I hear that a lot from, I've spoken with 3 gentlemen in Subaru, actually, who were in similar situations where they, they love what they do. One of them has 2 master's degrees and runs the Gresham Center. But the amazing thing is they said very much it's about the people, and it's about being able to be part of a team and growing others. And I think as you lead, I know that was my favorite part when I was fortunate enough to be a manager, was leading, turning that into skills for other people and watching them fly with that. It's just, there's something so rewarding about being able to pass that on and nurture growth, right? So you talked about what kind of motivated you. So I think we've kind of covered this, and I know you're on a limited timeline, so I definitely want to respect that. But we talked about education. So to do your particular job, it sounds like you went on and got a master's. Is that required? So you went from high school, college, got your 4-year degree in mechanical engineering, and then to get to where you are, is a master's required? Kind of what steps? Can you outline that a little bit?
Yeah, I would say a master's is not required, but definitely helpful. I think it helped me a lot just because I was probably I didn't have the actual years of experience that normally for our site, I would say for the engineering management roles, I didn't have those years of experience to say, hey, I've already worked here for 20 years, I know how this place runs and things like that. So I think it helped in that context. Really great opportunity, just because Boeing does have a Learning Together program where they paid for the master's to a certain degree. So it was almost like I wasn't going to miss that opportunity.
That's awesome. I also see that you hold a certificate in executive leadership as well.
Yeah. So I think continuous learning, like I keep saying, has been very important in my career. I kind of get a little bit bored if I'm not learning. And like you said, being a manager, whole different skill set. I can do numbers, I can do stress analysis and modeling and everything. But being a manager is the biggest stretch I've ever taken outside my comfort zone. Luckily, there's been a lot of programs that has helped. Executive Development Institute is actually a Seattle-based program And it is for multi-ethnic professionals. Again, a mentor in my life suggested that I apply to this because I always came to work, and it's a blended program for either Asian or Hispanic individuals, and it's how you would bring your culture to work and how you would blend it with with other cultures that don't really match yours. You know, I was very shy. I didn't really speak up in meetings. I very conflict adverse in these. It was a whole long year development program that kind of walked you through, again, like talking to panelists. They were like, hey, you know, I was very similar to you all, and I just slowly edged out of that comfort zone. We went to training. They made us climb rock climbing walls in front of everybody. It was horrifying. They made us do role playing where we were screaming at each other in a conflict setting. So it really developed those skills, even though I was dying on the inside. But I would actually attribute me being able to do this today to that program. It took I worked on it all the time after that, knowing that maybe I should bring my culture to work as well as appreciate the other culture. And how does that look for me? How do I blend that together and make it work? Which is a conscious decision. And our site has sent quite a few people there. And I've seen a lot of benefit from these types of not really traditional bachelor's degree types of things. I think I've learned the most through more targeted things, but that's personally for me. I think it works well just because that's where I needed that growth.
So if you're a high school student today, where, you're a high school student, you're exploring your options, and maybe you decide that culinary school maybe not be your route, how would you advise them to get started? Just, whether it's career exploration or volunteering?
Oh, yeah. I think career exploration is very good. I think that's a good starting point, especially doing these types of things. Maybe you watch that video, maybe that does look like something you want. Maybe you're watching the video and you think, okay, I don't want to do what Victoria does, but man, that assembler person, that looked like fun, hands-on experience. And then from there, I think looking for opportunities to actually tour and job shadow, because I think this really is 80% the experience. Internships are so valuable. And I always tell my interns, look around. It's not just the internship that you're in, but what other business teams are out there within Boeing so much, right? In any company. Like maybe it's not the desk you're sitting in, but what if it's that guy next to you? Talk to them and see if you like it, because the worst thing that can happen is you go on these experiences and you figure out what you don't want to do. And that in itself helps target it also in some fashion. But I feel there's, for the high school generation today, there's so much opportunity out there in such a fast changing world. It's almost like a dream what they can do with their futures. And I really encourage you to latch onto that and just keep an open mind. Like I said, I never would have dreamed that this is what I would be doing and that I would actually really enjoy it. And then still for me, like I said, and like you said, Asha, continuing to think about what you want to be when you grow up. I try to take the mentality still today of if I was a high school student, what would I be doing, And it's just fun to see the world changing and what's all out there for everyone.
I definitely agree. And I used to tell my students all the time when I worked more directly with them in my previous careers that honestly, it's just as important to find out what you don't want to do as it is what you do want to do. Because you don't know what you don't know, right? Like I could show up at Boeing thinking I'm going to, in my internship, and I'm going to do this and that and the other thing, and I thought something completely different than what I ended up doing now. But I did fall in love with nonprofit work, and although I started out at Special Olympics Oregon, and so that was, I realized that was, I liked the challenge of having to do less with more. I liked the challenge. So it's so important to know it's okay that you didn't like it. That's totally fine, but it's also okay to find out, what you do and don't. So what skills and attributes make students successful in this type of career? And not just, we've talked about education, we've talked about lifelong learning, but I like to let students know, especially high school students, do you need to like math? Do you need to like physics? Do you want to work with your hands? Is identifying things that they like about themselves. So what sort of things would make them successful in your?
I think at Boeing, engineering stays within engineering for the most part. We are a unionized workforce, so then the operations personnel gets to be a little bit more hands-on. So when I a lot of interns do come here and they might love it. They might love sitting at their desk and designing and 3D modeling. But some students honestly like to work with their hands and actually build things and be able to do a blended job. So you kind of got to know that going in. But again, Boeing has plenty of opportunities out there. I think what other skill sets that I have seen become more and more focused on in schools in our changing world is honestly the soft skills. Every intern I say, I take all the interns and you guys all come in with the exact same degrees, the exact same qualifications, same classes, everything. But what is really different is it needs to be balanced with the soft skills. And I'm talking about collaboration, adaptability, communication, honestly, project management, those types of skills. Even this is how the best way to communicate, email, instant message, phone call, in person. Something goes wrong, which one do you use? So it's a lot of mentoring. It actually more so goes in that side of it than how do you do math. So I have seen students today come out of high school and college with such a better skill set, because I think that's more recognized in the education system than it ever was. Than when I went through it. I could hardly talk to my manager when I graduated. So I think those are equally important to work on all of the time. I think the soft skill side is not as focused as hey, you need to get a C or better in math, So I think you got to kind of take that personally and continue to hone those skills also. If you're not balanced in both, my manager told me you can be the best engineer in the entire world, but if no one wants to work with you, then it's a useless skill. So always balancing those two things.
I hear a lot from my manufacturing partners, especially if you're just starting out, right? If you're not an engineer, but you're definitely interested in the line assembly, or you just want to get a foot in the door. If you're willing to show up and put in the work and will work with others and be willing to learn, it's okay to know a lot. And that's great, but you don't know everything. And so being willing to learn from others and things like that are skills that most of my manufacturing partners are if you show me somebody like that, I will absolutely be willing to teach them, mold them, mentor them, help them with education, because you can, like you said, you can be the best engineer in the world, but if nobody wants to work with you, then it's useless.
Right.
So yeah. Looking back, kind of to wrap up, because again, I want to be respectful of your time, what would be the best piece of advice over your career that you would give a student looking to get involved in engineering or even in Boeing overall?
The best piece of advice. I'm trying to think of something that we haven't already gone over.
And it's totally okay if it's something we've already said too. I mean, that it definitely stands to repeat. Sometimes things need to be repeated.
Yeah, I really think looking for the opportunities. Working at a big company, I see how many opportunities Boeing is able to put out there. I know going through college and everything, it might be hard to pay for college and things like that, but really just making that vision and building it for yourself, you can start to see it for yourself, right? And then you inherently work towards it. You can set a plan and you can strive for those things. It does get really hard, sometimes, hey, I got to scoop ice cream at Baskin Robbins 40 hours a week and try to go to college, but also maybe I can find a lot of scholarships because I do pretty well in classes, and also look for the people that are willing to mentor. I honestly think the folks that have mentors and sponsors and stuff like that, they have not a leg up, but they have a little bit more insight, I may be hey, Asha, I know you were a manager before, and like you said, you went a whole different route with your career. I'm at a spot where I might be looking to make that change, but I'm a little bit scared to make that jump. I think talking to people to make those decisions and having mentors around you helps in such a sense that you might not, it'll help you avoid ending up 10 years later, man, I wish I did that. And I really am in a job I don't really enjoy. How did that happen? Because days go by fast. So really look for the opportunities, have a trusted group of people around you, and constantly change up that group. Look for people that are more diverse. I have honestly in my head a vision board of leaders I want to be for this reason, leaders I want to be for this reason, leaders I don't really look up to for this reason. Some of them end up in all of those boards, and they're all of them are my mentors or sponsors, and I constantly work with them. They keep me in check, like, hey, Victoria, maybe you need to speak up, maybe you need to stand down, maybe, like, how can I help? I think all very important. And I just, I know everyone will eventually get that point in their lives where they're able to give back. And I think that's very important. I'm not saying I know everything in the world, but I'm always opening to mentoring people also, so it's just, how can I pay that forward sometimes? So take what you can get and give back.
Definitely. That's something I really enjoy doing is, some of that guidance. But I think to your point of mentors, sponsors, I think we all think sometimes that, like, wow, Victoria, man, she's really made it. Well, Victoria had to work very hard along the way, and it might not have been the big steps that we see. It could be baby steps. And I think that's important too, is, as you build that vision for yourself, like you said, it can be, well, I'm going to get a college degree. Well, what's my first step? I'm going to look for scholarships, right? Like,
Right.
It doesn't have to be this, I'm going to get a college degree. It's baby steps. What am I going to do first? And it's okay if it takes you a little longer than the dude next to you. That's fine too.
Exactly.
Your journey is your journey, right? And that can look a lot of different ways to a lot of different people. Yeah,
I agree.
Well, again, Victoria, I want to be sensitive to your time. Thank you for joining us today. I know you're a very busy woman. I appreciate your time, and thank you for your patience with the little hiccups. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope at some point we might get the chance to do this again, or even see each other in person as we get the vaccine rolled out and back to in-person stuff. So again, thank you, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.
You too. Thanks for the opportunity.